Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all so much for joining us today and being here at this year's Next conference and making time on a Friday afternoon to fill the house. We're extremely excited to see all of you here today. To introduce myself, my name is Matt Moore, and I'm the product manager on the Google Cloud Jobs API, which was launched in alpha this last November. And today I'm really excited to talk to you about something that I'm extremely passionate about, which is job search. But first of all, in this session, what we're going to do is we're going to take a behind-the-scenes look at the Jobs API. We're going to provide an update on what we've been working on the API since our announcement in November. And we're extremely excited to be joined today by the head of talent management at Johnson & Johnson to hear about his experiences deploying the API to the Johnson & Johnson career site. So, first of all, what is the Google Cloud Jobs API? Well, obviously, it's the first vertical pre-trained machine learning model from Google. That's clear, right? But what does this really mean? To answer that, let's take a step back. Story time. Here at Google, we started with a simple question. How could we create a 10-fold increase in the number of people that we hire? We began by taking a deep look at all of Google's hiring channels. And we found, to our surprise, that the Google career site that you see here was one of the most scalable channels, and that it was severely underutilized. So after analyzing user behaviors and interactions on the career site, we realized if we were able to make even a small change to the career site conversion rate, we'd be making a material difference to the bottom line, to the number of people that we hired every year. And so we looked for opportunities where we could optimize. We ran countless experiments, and we focused hard on improving the career site visitor experience, looking for every way we could drive an increase to conversion, and ultimately generate high-quality hires. The resulting solutions, which are still in use on the Google career site today, feel free to take a look, we are hiring, became the first version of the Google Cloud Jobs API. So I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce Christian Post, our chief data scientist, who's here to talk about the problems we've seen along the way and what we've done to solve them. Please join me in welcoming Christian to the stage.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? So yes, let's take a second just to talk about one of the main problems that the Jobs API is trying to tackle. So as you know, there's no standard for writing job posting. So very often what we're seeing is companies which are struggling and using some kind of internal language for describing job titles that may not be obvious to job seekers. So you can see a few of them up there. They are real. We have seen them through the Jobs API. They are not the worst one. And I'm sure that if you are in the industry, you can come with weirder ones. On the other hand, job seekers do not have a PhD in terminology, and so they cannot anticipate all the possible ways that a title can be expressed. So even if you are a recovery and asset protection specialist, you may never find these rec and asset prot level 1 jobs, because how on earth do you know it's spelled this way? So the Google Cloud Jobs API is like a translation engine, a Rosetta Stone, we like to call it, that helps match the employer's interest with the job seeker's interest. So now, if you're trying to fill this rec and asset prot level 1 position, the API is going to help you surface a job to the job seekers which are best suited for it. About the Rosetta Stone, if you remember, this is a stone that was rediscovered by the French in Egypt in 1799. It contains 3 translations of the same decree. At the bottom, it's in ancient Greek. It was known at the time. At the top one, it was ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs that was unknown. And thanks to the stone, 20 years later, a French scholar was able to translate or decipher the hieroglyphs. So I like to think about the job seeker queries like the ancient Greek, who kind of know a bit what's going on. You have the job posting titles who have no idea. This is the hieroglyphs. Essentially, the API is the Rosetta Stone. But the best way to fill the problem is to see it in action. So let's look at the search behavior on the previous version of the Johnson & Johnson career website. And we're going to take a very simple query, like searching for admin assistant role in New York. What could go wrong? Well, if you look at the results, it's a bit surprising. They're all mismatches. And there are a couple of reasons for that. The first one is the realizations that very often job titles are the combinations of very generic terms, 2 or 3 very generic terms. Independently, each term is very vague. But when you put them together, they create a very specific meaning. And this makes any keyword-based search very challenging. OK, you saw that problem. There are more issues. One is that an admin assistant is a supporting role for senior positions. So it will tend to be mentioned in the job descriptions of the more senior role. And now you have an increased risk of returning the senior role in the search results for the admin assistant query just because you had a hit on the secondary role in the job descriptions for the senior role. And that's what happens here, essentially. If you look here, all of these jobs are pretty seniors. And by doing so, you're missing the intent of the job seeker. So the APA is tackling this issue and many others, and we will see a bit more in the future. But how does it work? So at the core of the Google Cloud Jobs APIs are data models that encode our knowledge about occupations, skills, educations, locations, companies, employment type, and more. What you're seeing here is a visual representation of one of our data models, which is the title or occupation data model. So for 1 second, just imagine that you're at night and looking in the sky. Try to do that tonight, but good luck in San Francisco. There's a fog. So go back home and look at the sky. Imagine that every star you're looking at is a title. Related titles are close stars in the sky. And like stars concentrate in galaxies, titles that belong to the same job categories will tend to concentrate in clusters. So if you look at our skies, we have some exciting galaxies here, like the accounting and finance, or the business operations, or the art of fashions and design. Each galaxy is made of thousands of titles, and we understand around 250,000 titles, yes. What's much more interesting is if you look at the structure within the galaxies, there's fine structures that encode the type of similarities between those titles. OK, so we are in the age of space travel, right? So maybe we can go visit some of these stars. Do you want to do that? I don't even know what I'm asking you, because anyway, you don't have a choice. The doors are closed. So put your seatbelt and enjoy the ride. So let's look at the video. So our journey is going to start by visiting the Business Development Manager star. So what we want to see with this video is a couple of things. I will go tell you what you would have visited. So if you're in the Business Development Manager stars, you're going to see in the neighborhood space, there are very small nuances of that title. Oh, thank you. Finally, we're taking off. Excellent. There we go. We are in the advertising and marketing galaxy. So the first thing you can see here in the close-by space, we are capturing very small nuances, like a business development manager can be a business development director. So we have these nuances between a manager and a director. You have a business development marketing manager. We also capture a lot of vertical BD manager role, like a government business development manager, IT development manager, or store, I think, retail business development manager. So those are small nuances we capture. But a business development manager can be also expressed in many different ways, like, for example, a brand development manager. So we just visited the nearby space. We went a bit further. And you can see here, we exemplify a few more alternatives of how a business development manager is being expressed. It can be mentioned as a director of brand strategy or a strategic planner, partner relationship manager, even a chief marketing officer or an account marketing executive. Okay, so now we're going to switch, and we're going to go far, far away galaxy, which happens to be the transportation and logistic galaxy. And we're going to visit a star, which is the truck driver star. So it takes a little while, because really we're going to go across the universe. There we go. As you can see, again, we have tons of nuances around the truck driver. So in a nearby space, you capture things like a delivery driver or a Class A CDL driver, a 7.5-ton driver, or things like car transporter or tow truck coordinator. But the most important thing here is to realize is there are strong differences between those roles. For example, heavyweight and lightweight truck driving have very different driving requirements in terms of driver license. So you never want to return heavyweight truck driver roles to lightweight truck driver queries, because there's a mismatch. Okay, finally, we're going to go into the admin assistant role that we saw a bit earlier, which happens to be in the administrative and office galaxy, which is a good one. Same pattern here. You can see that we have all the possible nuances. So for example, an admin assistant can be a personal assistant, an office assistant, a secretary, administration coordinator, and so on. We again capture vertical admin assistant, like faculty admin assistant or store admin assistant. We capture also different seniority level, like senior admin assistant or admin assistant 1, 2, or 3. Okay, so we're done with our space. I hope you're not too dizzy. But as you can see, it was a fast travel. Some hookup at the very beginning, but we did this travel, and we never spent quality time at one of these stars. So what we're going to do now is take a break, take a vacation, and revisit one of these stars, the exciting Business Development Manager one, and try to explore in more depth. So what you said earlier is we understand a lot about this title. The first thing is we understand all the possible synonyms that can be expressed, especially also slang ones. So if you are in a biz dev world, you may spell something like biz dev in one single word, where we capture business development in that case. You can use abbreviations. There too, those are captured. You just saw earlier, we understand a lot of all the related roles. We also have relationships and strength of relationships between those roles. Those are captured. Earlier, you saw that this role belongs to the advertising and marketing galaxy, but actually it belongs to more galaxies than that. It also belongs to the sales galaxy and the management galaxy. You want to capture all of these facets of the diamond that a business development manager role is. And all of these relationships, we have them with confidence score, so you know the strength of the relationships. Finally, we also understand what are the skills related to that role. And since we're talking about the skills, why don't we do a small deep dive into our skills ontology? And we're going to use the business development manager role to exemplify what we're trying to build. So what you're seeing here is a simplified snippet of our skills data model related to the business development manager case. So the first thing is, if you are a business development manager, you must have business development skills. It's like kind of a duh moment, right? But actually, it's a critical one, because at this point in time, we can start reasoning about what it means. Business development skills, it's a collection of different skills, such as brand building, finding business opportunities, relationship buildings, sales skills, strategic management skills. But if you have sales skills, you better have good communications and interpersonal skills. So what you're seeing here, essentially, we have a graph of skills with different type of relationships, which is encoded by these different type of arrows here. So some skills are part of larger skills, some skills are collections of skills, some skills are prerequisites of skills. Some skills are related to other skills, like for example, the business development skills is related to strategic partnership development. And more importantly, also, we understand the relationship between occupations, skills, and education. So we did earlier the hop from business development manager to the business development skills. Business development belongs to the larger business skill, which is commonly associated with an MBA degree, which is encoded here. Okay, so we talked about the mismatch between job seekers and employers. We talked about these beautiful data models. Well, how do we bridge the two? And this is where machine learning comes into play. So essentially, machine learning helps us extract content on both sides from the employer and the job seeker. and map the content to the data model with great accuracy. Once we have done the mapping, essentially we can leverage Google search technology for retrieving and ranking search results. So here on the left, you see the employer. So whenever a job posting is inserted in the private tenant on the Google Cloud platform, we parse the job posting and we structure it. So we are going to use now natural language processing and machine learning for essentially building structure. For example, first thing we do is we automatically segment the job description into its main constituents, which are responsibilities, company descriptions, requirements, and other subsections. We also extract 24 of what we call nuggets, like, for example, all the leaves, parental leaves, sick leaves, vacation. We extract all the benefits, if they are present on a job posting. We extract things like shift flexibility, life insurance, 401k, tuition reimbursement. So we extract these data and we normalize them and we surface them. We also extract and normalize the skills from the requirements section. Also, something you saw earlier, we automatically categorize the job posting into one of these broad job categories, or galaxies, a bit earlier. So we create a very large set of metadata that we're going to leverage in the search. On the right side, you see the job seeker. So when the Jobs API gets the job seeker query, we do the same work. We try to identify if there is a title, employment type, a company, skills, education statement, pretty much anything that moves. We try to detect it and normalize it so that we can now match to the rich metadata of the job posting we just talked about. So maybe we can take a minute to go visit one of these data processing that we have built. And the one example maybe we can use is our title standardizer. So, as you know, job posting titles are very, very noisy. I think pretty much, I will just give you an example. I think on the millions and millions of job postings that we have analyzed, we found that actually the number of unique strings that you can extract in terms of title on job postings, it's pretty much just reduced your set by 75%. So essentially, if you have 10 million job postings, you end up with 2.5 million job titles, which are unique strings. It's very noisy. Why? Because there are ads. And so often you find content that does not describe the occupation. You find things like location, company name, employment type, but you find things also like advertising jargon. Needed, wanted, grand opening. And sometimes you find extremely useful information like administrative jargon, like a reference ID on the job posting. So the first thing that the Jobs API does is clean up the mess. And then we standardize the remaining content. So if you have acronyms, abbreviations, we also do contextual disambiguation. And finally, also, we extract the skills and specialties from the job postings and append that to the title. At this point in time, we built a high-dimensional vector representations of those titles. The dimension of the vectors essentially are terms and expressions that we have gathered from titles and the skills extracted from millions of job postings across hundreds of thousands of career websites. So now we can use machine learning. At this point in time, we built a classifier. It's an ensemble classifier that is a collection of natural language-based processing classifiers and neural nets. And the classifier will attempt at mapping the statement that you're feeding it, so this title string, into 0, 1, or more occupations in our title data model. Why 0, you ask? I'm glad you asked. Well, Princess of Darkness, it's a title we have seen. And I use that all the time. So, not CHRO, no, Princess of Darkness. So, unless you have some extra information that you have extracted from a job posting, like skills, we must be able to say, I have no clue what to do with that. On the other hand, very often, especially on the query side, especially also with the blue colors and those skills, you don't find very specific titles. Titles tend to be pretty vague. So you must be able, like a retail sales or team members, or I want to work in warehousing, you must be able to map the query or the titles to not a single node into the ontology, but to a multitude of them. And we do that with confidence score, which means that whenever we do the mapping, we have a sense that the mapping was done without ambiguity, or maybe with some ambiguity, and we take care of that also in the search results. OK, so that concludes our little deep dive into the title standardizer. We have similar standardizers for educations, for skills, and others. But I think at this point in time, you're much more excited to see how this surfaces into the product. So I'm going to hand back to Matt to see how our customers are using the API today. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Christian. So our goal is to bring this next wave of computing to the entire talent industry, fundamentally changing how employers are able to attract, connect with, and retain talent. Job search, if you think about it, is just the first step in this API's journey. I mean, almost every business starts their hiring processes with job search. And as we found, once optimized, it's a very powerful tool in your hiring arsenal. So by working with existing independent software vendors and job platforms, we aspire to create turnkey access to the API. We want to provide a better job search experience for all employers and candidates. Because let's face it, hiring the right people is one of the most important things your company needs to do. To date, we've announced 2 core use cases, both of which are running in a closed alpha program in North America. The first one is powering job boards. For the job board case, we are pleased to share that Career Builder is nearing a production release, and ongoing testing and improvements continue to date with Dice.com. Our second and extremely important use case is powering talent networks and company career sites. We're also pleased to announce for Career Builder that they've brought over 20 companies online with the API in their talent network, including CIOX Health, GameStop, and Lucas Group, helping thousands of job seekers find their next job going forward. Additionally, the Cloud Jobs API continues to power job search on the Google and FedEx career sites. And later this month, Jibe will be onboarding HealthSouth, the largest owner and operator of inpatient rehab hospitals in the United States, and Eaton, a multinational power management company. Specifically for Google and our online hiring efforts, our career site handles several million queries each month, and we've seen a 28% increase in candidate success rate from apply to hire since our journey with the API began. And last, but definitely not least, we're pleased to be joined here today by one of our newly onboarded customers, Johnson & Johnson. And today, we're pleased to announce several updates to the alpha and share with you some of our future plans for the API. We've been hard at work these past few months evolving the Jobs API to address additional customer needs and prepare the API for broader adoption, which I'm sure you're all interested in. So first of all, we've added featured jobs, which enables a hiring company to promote jobs that it has a business-critical need to fill as soon as possible and be seen by as many job seekers as they can get it in front of. Secondly, we've added histogramming, which is the ability to include and render dynamic search counts alongside your filters, which is going to greatly improve the understandability of your search results and experience. Next, we've added support for bulk operations. Bulk operations allows you to send multiple creates, updates, or deletes in the same call, which is a much requested and extremely useful feature when you're managing a lot of job data, like many of our customers do. And finally, we've added significant relevance thresholding improvements, further ensuring our objective to return great matches for all job seeker queries and showcase the search quality of the API. But now, let's take a look at what's coming next. So, in the first quarter of this year, we'll be rolling out some important changes and enhancements to the API. To start, we're going to be making improvements to how we handle locations in your job data, improving our support for both jobs without locations, which happens, and jobs with many locations. This quarter, we're also going to be introducing integrations for behavioral data improvements to our existing data models, which will further improve your search results. Looking forward, this half of the year, we're aiming to graduate our API into beta, expanding and making the API prepared for greater public availability. With the beta launch, we're also aiming to release a couple of cool new features, such as commute search, which we're going to talk about more in a moment, and job-to-job recommendations, improving on our models, which will build smarter associations between jobs in the system. And finally, as we look to the future, we've got an ambitious set of goals for the API to bring and expand the API to customers worldwide, translating and localizing in new countries and languages. And while we started with job search, our goal is to take this machine learning-powered API to the next level and enable job-to-person recommendations, helping generate smart job recommendations based on resumes and profiles, so your job seekers never even have to search. Because search, it's not always the right tool for the job. It's limited to being initiated by the job seeker. And this next step will move the API forwards, leveraging machine learning to intelligently match job seekers with your company's open opportunities. But let's take a moment and dive into one of the features that I'm extremely excited today to reveal for the first time, which is the ability to search jobs by how long it takes to commute to work. So, as a little background, it's been shown that an employee's commute has one of the strongest ties to job satisfaction. And when you're trying to attract and retain the best talent, employees need to be satisfied with all aspects of their job, including how long it takes to get to work. There are many job seekers that depend on the availability of timely public transportation to get to work. A job that's 20 miles away, may take over 2 hours to get to by bus, which is time that could be spent at home with your family. An employee that has to spend 2 hours commuting every day is probably going to be an attrition risk. And even for drivers, job search until now has been entirely straight-line distance-based. And that's useful if you can afford to fly to work every day. Most job seekers don't have that luxury or a straight-line route to work. And when you're commuting during normal business hours, there's something that slows you down even further, which is traffic. I'm sure you're all familiar with it. With commute time search, we're aiming to help job seekers make informed decisions around where their next job is located and be happier, more effective employees. Let's take a look at the demo. We've loaded up this quick demo running on the API to demonstrate how you might use the API to allow job seekers to search by commute time. On the right, you'll see the browser developer console, which is showing the real-time API output. And we've loaded this instance up with some test data for software engineering positions where you can specify a street address, which is Sunnyvale in this case, a method of transportation, which is either public transit, walking, or driving, and we'll pick driving here, and the amount of time you're willing to commute, which we'll leave at 30 minutes in this case. When we search, we can see the API returns jobs that have street addresses specifically reachable within 30 minutes, as indicated by the blue area on the map. And as you can see, For this job in particular, we were able to identify the company's street address and determine that this job is 28 minutes away in traffic. To take a look at another quick example, let's search from an address in the city of San Francisco, say the downtown area where we all are right now. And because I'm commuting from the city, I'm more interested in public transit options. And I live in San Francisco, I have a high tolerance for commute, say 60 minutes or so. When I search, I can see the extremely non-polygonal set of locations where we return jobs, which are influenced by local public transport options, BART, which takes you up through Walnut Creek, and Caltrain, which takes you down into the peninsula. And we can get an accurate and specific understanding of where I can reach in an hour from the city, which is very important if I don't have a car, for example. This is a brand new way of representing location-based job search, one that's more reflective of the actual experience of traveling, where did I go? Traveling between home and work. So we're, just jumping back to the slides here. We're excited to share this with you today, and that's your sneak peek at the future of the Jobs API, which you can look forward to seeing more about in the next couple of months. We hope you enjoyed this first look at this brand new feature, and we're excited to be making this available to our customers going forward in the near future, and we really can't wait to see what awesome stuff they bring to the table with it. But, thank you. So, you're probably all wondering at this point how to get started with the Jobs API. If you manage a company's career site, and we already have a number of approved reseller integrations in place at this time, we recommend you contact your applicant tracking system or career site provider to ask about leveraging the Jobs API. And if they're not already a reseller, encourage them to sign up with Google at the website you see here, cloud.google.com/jobs-API. For anyone here that runs an applicant tracking system, or is a career site provider, or a job board, or any other business interested in leveraging the API, please also visit cloud.google.com/jobs-API to register your interest in the service, and we'll get back to you shortly. Our API is still in alpha, and once we've granted you access, getting started with the API is as simple as setting up a new project in the Cloud Developer Console and registering your account with our service.